Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is September 13th, 2024, and Barcelona scouts have been banned from a club in Spain. Also, Barcelona are currently interested in a Dutch defensive midfielder. And finally, Deco has blamed Margu for leaving Barcelona. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and before I begin with the news, just a quick reminder to make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All of this helps this channel continue to grow. Also, if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you hit the goal kits, skip bag, or fanatics. And if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure you hit the bet us. All links are down below in the description. Now, begin with the news that Barcelona scouts have been banned from a club in Spain. And this club is no other than Real Zaragoza. Now, Real Zaragoza have actually issued an official statement complaining about clubs taking away their youngsters in the academy. In this statement, Real Zaragoza said that they spend a lot of time and resources identifying young talent in the community, recruiting them, training them, developing them, etc., only to end up losing these young talents to clubs with more resources. And since there are no regulations in place to protect these smaller clubs from being plundered by clubs with more resources, Real Zaragoza have decided to ban scouts from Real Betis, Barcelona, and Real Madrid. Now, Real Betis most recently signed a young talent from Real Zaragoza. We also know that Barcelona signed both Gorka Buyel and Samu Bornkiel from the Real Zaragoza Academy. We know Real Madrid have done this in the past as well. And as such, Real Zaragoza have decided to ban the scouts from all these three clubs, and they have banned them from all the matches of their youth teams. So Barcelona scouts will not be able to go to these matches to watch Real Zaragoza players. And as such, it's going to be more difficult for Barcelona to identify any talents that they might be interested in at the Real Zaragoza Academy. Now, more news because Frenkie de Jong is reportedly ready to get reincorporated into group trainings. Now, the last time Frenkie de Jong played for Barcelona was on April 21st, 2024 in the Clásico match against Real Madrid, where a clash with Fede Valverde saw Frenkie de Jong injure his ankle for the third time during this past season. And ever since, Frenkie de Jong has been out. He's been out for almost 5 months, and since Frenkie de Jong opted for conservative treatment over surgery, his treatment has been taking longer than initially anticipated. But it's reported that most recently, during individual trainings, Frenkie de Jong has demonstrated good mobility. He's also demonstrated that he's been tolerating increased intensity, and as such, the Barcelona physios and doctors have decided that Frenkie de Jong is now ready to get reincorporated into group trainings, because as you know, when a player is recovering, they first start training on their own. Once they're ready, then they get reincorporated into group trainings. And it seems that Frenkie de Jong is getting ready to do this, which signals that Frenkie de Jong is nearing the final phase of his recovery. Of course, we don't know when he will be officially back, but it looks like Frenkie de Jong is entering the final stage of his recovery, which will be getting reincorporated into group trainings. Now, more news because Barcelona are reportedly interested in a Dutch defensive midfielder named Guus Chelsea. I hope I said that correctly. But if you don't know who Guus is, he's a 27-year-old defensive midfielder who currently plays for PSV Eindhoven. It's reported that when Marc Bernal first got injured, Barcelona, of course, went to the market looking for low-cost alternatives to sign in place of Bernal, and they, in fact, identified Guus Chelsea as a possible low-cost option, since it's reported that Barcelona could sign him from PSV Eindhoven for around 25 million euros, since his contract does not expire until 20 28. Now, Barcelona did reach out to Schuiten's agents and they did initiate talks with the player and his representative. However, due to the club's financial fair play problems, Barcelona were not able to complete the signing. And even though the summer transfer market is closed, it's reported that Barcelona are still keeping an eye on this player because they want to see maybe if they do need to end up signing him in the place of Bernal. Now, it's reported that for now, Barcelona are going to continue monitoring Marc Casado to see how he does. If Marc Casado ends up, doing a great job with Barcelona, then most likely Barcelona are not going to be gonna need to sign anyone. But in case Casado perhaps doesn't convince or fully convince the club, then they might consider Jordi Schuiten from PSV Eindhoven because they can end up signing him for a low cost. And to be honest, if you ask me for my opinion, I don't think Barcelona are going to need to do this. I think Marc Casado has already shown us that he's very capable of filling that position. And I'm sure he's going to continue to show us that throughout this season. Now, more news because Deco has given an interview where he has discussed a myriad of topics, but I've decided to focus only on two because a lot of things that he said during this interview, he said them in the past one, which I did cover in a video. If you haven't seen it, make sure to check it out on the channel. So I've decided to focus on these two new topics. The first one being Marc Guiu, because Deco has explained what happened and why Marc Guiu ended up leaving to Chelsea. Now, in regards to Guiu, this is what the Barcelona sporting director had to say. Chelsea paid the clause and he left. He had an old contract with a clause of 6 million euros. He was offered an important contract and an important project, but he made the decision to go another way. We tried a lot to keep him, but we were not able to. The player opted for an offer from Chelsea. We offered him a project to be a striker for Barca, but he didn't want to. So Deco explaining that Barcelona offered Marc Guiu the project to be the striker of Barcelona, and they offered him a good project, but he opted to go to Chelsea. And in regards to this, I have to say, I think these statements are a bit misleading because, look, I have no doubts that Barcelona did offer Guiu a good project. After all, Flick was about to come to the club. We know Lewandowski was, is entering the final years of his career. And I have no doubts that Guiu ended up choosing Chelsea over Barcelona because Chelsea offered him a lot more money. It's reported they offered him 3 times the salary that Barcelona were offering him. So I have no doubts about that. But I think the misleading part is when Deco says that Barcelona offered Guiu to be the striker of Barcelona. Because that's when I think there's some lies, if I want to put it that way. Because after all, Barcelona did spend 30 million on who? On Vitor Roque. So I don't see how Deco could have offered Marc Guiu to be the striker of Barcelona when Barcelona had Lewandowski and they had just signed Vitor Roque. Not to mention that Pau Victor was, flourishing with Barca Athletic. I think Barcelona simply offered him a contract renewal, and then Marc Guiu ended up opting for a lot more money at Chelsea. I think that's what happened, which had Deco said that, I think it would have been totally fine. But I don't know about Barcelona offering Guiu to be the striker of Barcelona because as far as actions, that's not exactly what Barcelona did. Because if that was the case, then why did they spend all that money on Vitor Roque? Now, the other topic that I decided to cover from this interview was in regards to Oscar Mingueza, because Deco did address the question on whether Barcelona were looking to sign Mingueza, and this is what Deco had to say. At the moment, we haven't considered bringing him back. He's in a good moment, and of course, we're always on the lookout for good players. Now, the reason I bring this up because, as you might recall, I think it was last week, reports were circulating that Barcelona could consider bringing Oscar Mingueza back because, after all, Barcelona do have a buyback clause in the contract of Mingueza. They also own 50% of his rights, and while since Mingueza has been doing really well, then Barcelona were considering that maybe bringing him back, but now Deco clarifying that Barcelona are not considering it right now. So I guess that closes the chapter, at least for now, on the whole Oscar Mingueza thing. Now, speaking of interviews, let's end this video with Lamine Yamal's interview because he has said a pretty cool thing in his interview, which I wanted to cover. And It's about how long he would like to stay in Barcelona. Now, this is what the Barcelona star had to say. I don't want them to give me those 120 million because I would have to leave Barca. I hope I can never leave Barca. I want to be a legend. So really cool statements about Lamine Yamal expressing his desire to stay at Barcelona for his whole career and of course becoming a club legend. And I have to say, at 17 years old, the way he's playing, the way he's, what he does on the field, if he continues on his trajectory and if injuries allow it, I have no doubts that Lamine Yamal could enter the history books and become a Barcelona legend in the future. Anyways, that is all the news for this video. I did do the podcast earlier today. Make sure to check it out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, peace, Barça.